Hello, I am Dr. Catherine Toomer, and I'm a family medicine and community health physician who founded health, wellness, and weight loss centers. And I'm here today because hello, I am Dr. Catherine Toomer, and I'm a family medicine and community health physician who founded health, wellness, and weight loss centers.
Oh,
And
well,
I'm
I'm
here
gonna have
today
to turn off
because
my YouTube
hello,
because it is
I am Dr. Catherine Toomer,
it's
and I'm
circling
a
back,
family
so I'm gonna
medicine
turn it off.
community health physician who
Okay, there we go. Um, I didn't know to do the technical issues. So I am again Dr. Catherine Toomer, family medicine and community health physician and founder of Total Weight Care Institute. And what I'm going to talk about today is how to get through the holidays eating and enjoying yourself. I mean, this is a holiday that centers around food, Thanksgiving, Christmas, a lot of people have anniversaries around this time. And this is something that would help anyone eat at any celebration, any event. It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving, but for those who are in a health journey or still trying to improve their health or even trying to lose weight, it can be very daunting because the holidays are just known as a time when everybody gains, but that doesn't have to be the case. And so, what I'm going to do is go through my signature talk. I've added a few things from last year and the year before because information has changed. And I'm going to present my program, the one that I use, and that I've used it every year since 2001 when I started my own weight loss journey, and I've maintained my 100-pound weight loss off even through all the holidays. And I really like to eat, so it's not based on starving yourself, denying yourself. You just eat and enjoy. And I just want to say welcome to those who have joined in. I appreciate you being here, and we're going to get started. I'm going to share my screen. There. Let's hope I don't have any technical difficulties with this as well. All right. So again, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer, and this is the ultimate guide to holiday eating. All the goodies, none of the gain, or um, no guilt, no gain, no kidding. So again, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer, and as I mentioned, I'm a community health and family medicine physician and founder of Total Weight Care Institute. And I've created several programs, including Total Wellness and Weight Health program. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, a neurolinguistic programmer, and essentially what that means is I help people take negative thoughts and reframe them to positive. And I'm a TEDx and keynote speaker. And I'm also an author and mother, wife, and Labradoodle wrangler. And for anyone who has children who says they want puppies, just know you're going to be the one taking care of them because that's generally what ends up happening. And that's no different for me. So I wanted to start by telling you my story and my why. Why do I do this? Why is it so important for me to help other people? And essentially, I was in 2001, I was morbidly obese over years and years of gaining weight, mostly from stress. I became an insulin dependent diabetic as my weight got up and went up, which of course then, if anyone understands, insulin actually makes you gain weight. And so it just started this vicious cycle that I just could not break. And 1 month after my daughter was born, I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure related to pregnancy. And I was given a 50% chance of living 5 years. And if you look at this photograph, this was taken just 3 days before I was hospitalized. And to say I was scared um, is an understatement. And so what I did then is I shut down. I completely shut down. I was terrified. I was worried I would never see my children grow up. I was worried that I would leave them without a mother, and which is something
had always wanted to be. Ever since I was 9 years old, when my niece was born and I held her for the first time, I knew that's what I wanted. And I finally had that. And then I was worried that I wouldn't be able to see them, graduate from kindergarten, let alone from high school or college. But I also realized that I was extremely depressed. And because of that depression, postpartum depression, cardiac depression, some mild chronic depression, um, I realized my motivation was just non-existent. And unless I fixed my depression, I wasn't going to be able to do the things I needed to do. Now, mind you, I couldn't really do a whole lot because my heart was so compromised. I couldn't even hold my baby and walk across the room at the same time. I couldn't brush my teeth and stand up at the same time. And so really I was 100% reliant on other people. And that's probably what saved me because I had other people doing what was necessary for me to get better. And so what happened is I went and asked for help to try and lose weight and get my diabetes under control, one or the other. I figured if I got one under control, the other would follow. But no one would help me because of my heart. And so I started creating my own program. I created my program to help me get better. And so, in the process of doing that, I documented everything. I watched my blood sugars. I watched what ate, and watched what happened with my blood sugars. And I really, truly, truly love to eat, and I really like my sweets. And it was really difficult for me. And so I figured out a way that I could still eat all the things I wanted to do, but just in a way so that my health didn't suffer. And as a result, I actually lost 60 pounds in about 6 months. One of the beautiful things about diabetes is that you can control it meal to meal. So as soon as I got my blood sugars under control, I was able to start cutting back on my insulin, which meant that my weight started coming down, which meant that my diabetes was better controlled. And it just started this nice flow, this nice cycle, but going in the right direction this time. And so when everything was said and done, I had that program and I used it for myself. And when I was finally able to go back into practice, however, I tried to help people in a community health setting, which is where I normally would have worked. But what I found was that I couldn't. It takes a lot of time to talk to people in order to get to the bottom of why they're gaining weight. And that's essentially what I do. I look for the reason why. And in doing that, it takes quite a bit of time. And so if you look at the photographs, that is me at 36, like I mentioned, 3 days before going into the hospital. And the last photograph is this year, 20 plus years later. So I told you what I did, what happened, and then what I did then. So this is what I do now is I became the doctor I needed. So I help anyone who's overwhelmed, who's overweight, who just is over the whole system and just needs help getting their life back on track. And so I say I help people lose weight, but it's not just weight on a scale or weight in pounds. It's also anything in life that's weighing someone down. And so I maximize health and wellness through weight loss, and I create very targeted, individualized health and wellness improvement plans. And the reason that's so important is because it's already an overwhelming process. It's already an overwhelming way of living. And so the last thing we need is something difficult and something hard and one more thing to fail at. And so it's really important to make it something you can do now and when you're 90. And so I was very adamant about that. And I've been doing that very successfully for many, many years. And I do that by finding the cause of weight gain. Weight is a symptom, it is not a disease in and of itself until it becomes obesity. But weight is a result of things that happen either biologically, psychologically, or socially. And so looking for the causes of those things and addressing them helps in losing that weight. And so now what I do, because what I found is that there's just still so many people out there who are undertreated, undercared for, that I started teaching other physicians to create successful practices around comprehensive and compassionate weight health programs so that they can earn and serve with confidence. So that brings us to the ultimate guide of holiday eating. I created this guide for my own patients, and then I've been sharing it with other people ever since. And so what this is going to be are the 9 steps that you can use in order to get from point A to point B, or can continue to on your journey without feeling like you're moving backwards. And um, and so what I'll talk about the steps, there will be a point in between where I'll talk about my program and if anyone wants to work with me and how they can do that. And then I'll talk about desserts and how to really enjoy desserts. Because really, I mean, ultimately, that's why we like these holidays, is because it's probably the only time of year where people make pumpkin pie and sweet potato pie and all the other goodies. And and then I'll talk a little bit about medications because I do get a lot of questions about that. And I've been using many, many medications for weight health for over 10 years. And so I like to throw that in there because I have a lot of knowledge in that regard. All right. So holiday eating, the ultimate guide to holiday eating, all the goodies, none of the gain, in 9 easy steps. So rule number 1, Thanksgiving, Christmas, anniversaries, birthdays, they are celebrations. So relax and have fun. Don't worry about the food. Worry about enjoying yourself, because ultimately, how much you enjoy yourself will change what happens to the food once you've eaten it. The other is to prepare. If you fail to plan to fail. Now, that is something different for every person, but it's really important, though, to know what you're going to do in various situations so that you can really, it's a bit of a gauntlet. You have people who are always offering you things. There's people who get their feelings hurt if you don't eat their food. And so there's ways of doing all of that and kind of appeasing everyone and yourself without it causing an issue. But it's really important to know what you're going to do before you end up in that situation. So days in advance, if you are doing the cooking, plan a menu that avoids your triggers and provides satisfying options. For me, that means making sure that there are no Oreos in my house because I will eat them all. I know that's my trigger. I make sure that I do nothing that has any type of Oreos in it. And if I'm having something at my house, I ask people to please don't bring anything that has Oreos in it, because otherwise I just don't have the willpower and the discipline not to eat it all, honestly. And if you're a guest at someone's house, or you're going to be a guest at any event, if you're able, find out what's on the menu and then look and see if there's things that you can pick and choose that are going to help you maintain your health journey. And if not, offer to bring some things with you. Offer to bring things that might, that you can snack on, or things that will help you keep track of what you're doing, particularly when it comes to no sugar drinks or no carb snacks like nuts or different things. But there's, even if it's low carb, no carb, that's always the best, because you always want to leave space in your repertoire for all the good stuff that comes later, like the macaroni and cheese and the pies. And so hours before, visualize eating slowly, because ultimately our brain takes about 20 minutes to register that we've eaten and send the message back that you're full. And so if you eat too quickly, that message doesn't have time to come back and alter your behavior. So what ends up happening is you overeat. And so eating slowly is a habit that is practiced. And the best way to start practicing is by seeing yourself in your mind's eye, eating slowly. Then review your protocol plan. This is what I'm giving you right now. This is your protocol plan. So if you don't have a pen and paper out, I would suggest getting one and then writing down these steps. And then eat something. Do not walk into a situation where there's lots of food and you're hungry. Make sure that you eat your meals through the day like you normally would. So that way you can enjoy yourself without feeling like you're white knuckling it through the whole time, trying to avoid overeating certain things. It just gives you some wiggle room. It gives you the opportunity to sort of enjoy the environment without worrying too much about going overboard or falling off a wagon, which is what I hear often a lot. But what I always say, you're not really falling off a wagon. You're just sort of jumping from one wagon to another. And the point is to try and get back to the one you were on in the first place. So at the time that you're about to eat, enjoy everything. Enjoy the ambiance, enjoy the smells, enjoy the sounds, enjoy the food, enjoy socializing with family and friends. Really enjoy yourself and don't worry. When you worry, your cortisol levels go up. And when your cortisol levels go up, your food gets turned into fat rather than fuel. When you're enjoying yourself and your happy hormones, like your dopamine, are flowing through your system, when you eat, your food goes to fuel more than likely than to fat. And so really, it's really important to just enjoy yourself, enjoy your time. Otherwise, what's the point? And then repeat the protocol steps as needed. And so you're going to learn those protocol steps today. And then keep no carb snacks handy. So what having no carb snacks or high protein, high healthy fat snacks around like guacamole or nuts or nut butters and those type of things. The reason that's really important because it gives you so much more wiggle room later and it keeps your blood sugars down because ultimately that's what you're doing. You're trying to keep your blood sugar down and your insulin levels down because when you eat, our body produces a hormone called insulin, and insulin then is to help our blood sugars stay within a normal range. But insulin is also a growth hormone. And when we're done growing up, like most of us, then we grow out when we have a growth hormone in our system. And so it's really important to keep your insulin levels low. And the way to do that is to sort of preload with protein. So that way it offsets any carbohydrates and therefore any insulin production that may follow. And then the other it does is it keeps you from getting hungry while you're just in case, the food's not ready when you expected or you ate a little earlier than you should have just because you thought something was going to happen at a particular time. So this is also a way to kind of help before there's a problem. And so step one is appetite control. And you can have appetite control. You don't have to have medication. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But with the best way to control your appetite is with protein. So don't go hungry to a big meal, to any type of celebration. Make sure you've eaten something, or you can drink something like a 30-gram protein shake about 30 to 60 minutes before the meal. And what that will do will help you not feel so hungry. It will help suppress your appetite just a little bit so you're not ravenous and you're not just grabbing things and you have a little more control. And therefore, you can sort of go through the meal planning much, much better. So if you already don't have an appetite because you're on one of the newer medications, the GLP-1 receptor agonist, then you can probably skip this step. And the reason is you don't want to suppress your appetite all the way to nothing. I mean, the whole point of you being there. But I'll talk a little bit more about this later because there's also things you can do in timing your medication so that you are a little bit hungrier or that you can enjoy things a little bit better and that food will taste good because one of the side effects sometimes of these medications is that food doesn't taste that great, or you get full very, very, very quickly. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that because ultimately, when you're in a situation, it's a biopsychosocial process. The medication's helping with the biology, but the psychosocial stuff can still be pretty daunting. And mainly it's because most people cook out of love around this time of year. And they really get their feelings hurt if you don't eat their food. And so there's ways of eating their food, but without harming yourself, without overeating. And so sometimes managing your medications is the way to do that. And then step two is water. Always drink water before putting anything else in your mouth. And that's just not for holidays, that's for all the time. And the reason is because when you drink water, about 8 ounces, like which is a cup of water right before eating, it helps with digestion and it helps prevent overeating because it does fill your stomach a little bit more right before you eat. And so you tend to fill up a little bit more on a non-calorie item. But when you do eat and you do have your body starts digesting food, when you're hydrated, your body digests that food so much better. So you pull more nutrients out of the food that you've eaten. And therefore, all the different triggers in your body that say, yes, you've eaten, yes, you have enough food, yes, we've got what we needed, actually helps because what happens is now your body's getting the signal that it needed. Then step three is the first course, no carb course, as I call it. Small plate, all protein and vegetables. Now, if you are a meat eater, that could be the meat. If you're a plant-based, if you eat a plant-based diet, that could be a combination of various vegetables and grains, preferably whole grains, as close to the source as possible. The more processed things are, the less your body knows what to do with it. And so when your body doesn't know what to do with food, it turns it into fat and stores it as fat until it can figure out what to do. So the more chemicals that's in it, the more processed it is, the less likely your body's going to be able to get nutrients out of it, and therefore it will make fat from what you eat. And so sticking close to the source is best. And you can do that with plants and with animal protein. So your first helping, no carbs, no starches, just vegetables if you're plant-based, or vegetables and meat if you eat meat. And so healthy fats can go in there too. Cheeses can go in there too if you're not lactose intolerant. But otherwise, you just don't want any of the potatoes, none of the carbs, none of the starches yet. Now, that's why it's a small plate. You just want a little bit so you prime your body into getting ready for food and not ready to make fat. You want it, you're just telling your body, listen, I'm about to eat and I want you to make fuel out of what I'm about to eat. So here's a little bit that doesn't give you the tools you need to make that fat. And then step four is what I call the goodie course. That's the second course. And so what you do is your second helping, you take your plate, divide it in half, and it can be a bigger plate, and half of it should be protein vegetables, vegetables as protein, or vegetables with protein, and it should be half of your plate. The other half, you can take a little bit of all the other stuff, the candy jam, macaroni and cheese, and that's the rolls. That fills up the other side of your plate, but you take a little bit of everything, and it's a large plate of food, but it's still primarily a low carb plate. However, you're getting all the things that you like to eat all together, having that holiday meal, because we all have that taste we're looking for on the holidays, that combination of, cranberries and dressing perhaps, or and so it's really good to try and get as many flavors as you want, as colorful as you can. The more colorful your plate, the healthier it is. And I mentioned the half plate with a spoonful of everything. And then eat very deliberately, very slowly, fully enjoy every single mouthful. What that does, again, it changes the hormonal environment that food is going into. So when it's going into a high stress body, your body makes fat. If it goes into a relaxed, happy body, it makes fuel. And so enjoy it. Don't feel guilty. Don't get mad at yourself. Just enjoy what you're eating and look forward to it. And then step 5, no sugary drinks. Our body absorbs sugar very quickly when it's in liquid form. And when our body absorbs sugar, our body then produces the insulin, that hormone I talked about earlier, to help bring that sugar down because our sugar is toxic in our body, so is insulin, unfortunately. And so that combination makes fat. That's how our body makes fat. We always been taught fat makes you fat. Well, really, it's carbohydrates that make you fat. But but we still need them. It's important to have them, but just not in the form of liquid. Liquid carbohydrates are highly absorbed, and your body, there's nothing you can do to counter that level of absorption of sugar. And so just avoid all sweetened soft drinks. And we'll talk about, in a minute, I'll talk about how you can do that. So basically, water, of course, is the best, with lemon and lime if you don't like plain water, adding, a no sugar sweetener, or I'm sorry, no sugar flavor to it, like Crystal Light or Milo. Diet sodas, as long as it's in moderation, they're okay. This is a day where you're just kind of, you let your guard down a little bit. So go ahead and enjoy something, but it's better to have a diet soda than it is to drink something with sugar in it. Then step 6, as I call liquored and lit. A lot of times around this holidays, people tend to drink alcohol, and that is, there's nothing wrong with that if you do drink. But it's not the alcohol itself that's the issue. It's what you mix it with that's the problem. And so anytime you have any type of drink, any type of mixed drink, you want to make sure that the base of that drink is sugar-free. And you can add your own unsweetened flavoring to the water that you add it to, or use a diet soda, diet Coke and rum as opposed to Coke and rum or rum and Coke, or anything else. Now, here's a hack for you, and not just for alcohol, but for any type of punch. If you want to make a big punch, you can use sugar-free Jello or gelatin for the flavoring. It makes really, really, really good. And there's lots of different types, so you get a lot of variety. And so it's one way to make a sugar-free, really good tasting drink is by using a gelatin or Jello sugar packet, sugar-free packet. But then be very careful, because alcohol does lower your inhibitions. And so what that means is that you're less likely to make good decisions if you drink too much. And therefore, if you drop your guard, then often what happens is that you'll start overeating or start eating things in the wrong order. And so then it just kind of undoes all the hard work you've put in up until that point. I often get questions about wine, and that's step 7. With wine, now wine is made from fruit. Fruit is sugar with vitamins attached. So when you drink wine, it's the same. Your body can't tell the difference between wine and soda, really. And so it's important then, if you want to have a glass of wine, there are some wines that are better than others. Usually the sweeter wines, obviously, are sugarier, like the Moscato. And then you have some of the drier wines or reds. Now, your preference is your preference. If you're going to have a glass of wine, have the one that you like the best, and then just mitigate it with some type of protein. But the way to do that is to treat wine like it's a starch. Treat it like it's potatoes. Treat it like it's macaroni and cheese. Treat it like it is some other, or bread or a roll. And so what you do is you don't have that until you've had you're at your second helping. That first helping, that first initial eating should be nothing with carbohydrates in it, so that you have a more wiggle room when you get your second helping. And that's when you have your wine. If you can find low carb wines, they make them. And some people say they taste really good. And so that's an option. They're in almost every grocery store now, where they have, low carb or keto friendly, as they call them, wines. And step 8, I'm going to throw this in there, because step 8 is sometimes you may need help. And total wellness and weight health programs are my programs. And I have helped many, many people get through the holidays doing very well, still losing weight, still, or even not gaining. I'm a firm believer that if you get through the holidays and you don't gain weight, it is just the same as any other time when you lose weight. And the reason is because it is, you should pat yourself on the back because it's really a struggle for some of us to get through the holidays without just overindulging. And so if you're able to do that in a way that you still feel like you're celebrating, you still feel good, you still get all the stuff that you like and you like to eat, but your body does still is on track towards health, then of course you should always celebrate that. And so I put this in here. This is actually one of my clients who gave me permission to put this out. And she actually put it out on Facebook, which is where I saw it. And it says, I've been struggling to lose this COVID weight for 2 years. Working with Dr. Toomer, I've lost 15 pounds in a month and have so much more energy. And ultimately, that is what I do. I try to get people to feel healthier, feel better. And so my program, what it is that it's what I call the MIMO method. And it's minimal effort with maximum outcome. When you are in a process, the last thing you need is for it to be tiresome, for it to be difficult, and often what I'll see is people doing a lot of things that they think are healthy, but are actually derailing their weight loss process, like eating lots of fruit, eating grapes, for example. Grapes are sugar packets. And so our body really can't tell the difference between sugar and fruit, even though the fruit sugars are healthier than refined sugar, it's still sugar. Our body still reacts to it. And so, knowing those things and being able to mitigate them so that when you do eat grapes, you have cheese with it, or when you do eat an apple, you have nut butter with it, or nuts. Those are type of things that are really important to know so that all your effort actually gives you what you're looking for. And it's a biopsychosocial holistic approach, which again means it has to be healthy. It has to be biologically sound, evidence-based, which means that we have proof that it works. We have proof what it does in the body, not guessing, not these fad diets, something that's sustainable that you can do for your whole life, that fits into your life, that fits into your psyche, so that you don't feel like you're constantly struggling. You don't feel like you're failing. And also in a way so that you can still enjoy your family, you can still enjoy your friends, you can go to work without it being a problem and getting, feeling like you're hungry through the day, or you have to avoid friends because they want to eat out all the time. You can still do all those things. There's just a way to do it that works for you. And it's really quite it's not as difficult as people have made it out to be. And I'll give you an example. Actually, someone come with me to me and say that she wanted to work with me, and I asked her how she found out about me, and she said she was sitting in a restaurant and she overheard a conversation of friends sitting around eating, and a couple of the friends were asking another, "How do you eat like that? How did you lose so much weight? And you're eating." She was eating a piece of chocolate cake, apparently. And she said, it's not what you eat, it's how you eat it. And Dr. Toomer taught me how to do it in a way so that I can still enjoy all the things I like to enjoy, but without it causing an issue. And she said, and this is what I had taught her, that if you know you want to have a piece of chocolate cake after your meal, make sure that that chocolate cake is your potatoes of that meal or your French fries of that meal. You can have one or the other, but not both. And so you eat your protein, you eat your vegetables, and then you have your cake and you eat it in moderation. And I'll talk a little bit about that later because I will talk about dessert right after this. So I do individualized testing. I do medications where it's appropriate. I'm still a physician. I will not leave things untreated, or I'll just make a plan for you to take back to your primary care doctor. And I believe in all people having access to healthy eating. That means it should be culturally competent. if you are, no matter what your culture, no matter what your background, there are ways for you to be able to eat appropriately, eat in a way that's healthy, eat in a way that's enjoyable without it causing an issue and without you having to eat a whole bunch of stuff you don't like or not familiar with, you don't know how to cook. That doesn't work. Or if you are vegan or vegetarian, there's also ways that you can eat, get healthy, um, and get all the proteins that you need and all the calories that you need. I also talk a little bit about exercise. Now, my program is not heavily exercise laden because I was not able to exercise when I created it. I still have congestive heart failure. I'm much healthier now, but at the time when I lost most of my weight, I was not able to exercise at all. So it was all through how to make dietary changes without having to starve, without and still being able to eat the things I wanted to. And that's essentially what I do. And even when I do recommend exercise, it's usually later because if you add exercise too early when you're trying to figure out how to adjust your diet in a way or manipulate it in a way so that it works for you, it's just too much to keep adding to add so much there. Plus, when you finally get to a point where you're in a nice groove and you know exactly how to eat in a way that gives you more energy that you enjoy, it's easier than to exercise because now instead of your body going to make fat, it's going to your muscles as fuel. And so that exercise becomes more efficient when you wait a little while and then you start at your level. You don't go from being on the couch to running a marathon. Walk first. And that's really important. You start at your level. You start low and you go slow. There's no rule book that says you have to do strenuous exercise. In fact, strenuous exercise can actually make you gain weight because it can cause your body to stress. And so when we run, our brain can't tell if we're running for exercise or if we're running because we're being chased by something that wants to eat us. So our body reacts to it in the same way. And that's why muscle toning tends to be a better way of boosting your metabolism. And it's actually a very relaxing for some people. Unless exercise gives you some sense of stress relief, then muscle toning is the way to go. And so what happens with my program, you get access. I have many videos like this. I do videos and I put out protocols and help sheets or cheat sheets, as they say, guides to help. This booklet, what I'm talking about right now is actually one of the guides that I give, especially during the holidays, but it's really for any celebration, birthdays, anniversaries, anytime. I have weekly live group which some people call their sorority meeting because for some reason our men don't come as much, but it's for men and for women. And we talk about all the things that we're struggling with. We talk about things that we've conquered. And so people, depending on where you are in your process, it's really nice to hear people who have worked through some of the issues. And it's also very empowering when you can help someone else who's struggling is something that you've worked out. So it's a really nice combination of people at different levels with different attitudes about their process. Also, some are scared, some are empowered, it's just a way of everybody coming together and supporting one another, holding one another accountable when necessary or when needed. And then so that you're more likely to be successful in your process. And it's an ongoing process. So it's really important then to create an environment where people can do what's necessary without feeling like they're struggling. I also have a members only Facebook group so that we can continue that support online. And I also bring in experts for various reasons. And the reason is if you are struggling in any area of your life, it will cause you stress. And when you're under stress, your body pushes you towards diabetes. Essentially, it makes your body difficult to regulate blood sugar. And as I said earlier, you can't regulate blood sugar, your body makes fat. So financial problems can be a stressor. And so I brought someone in to talk about finances. Learning how to relax as soon as you start feeling that stress. So I had someone come in and talk about yoga breathing and different exercises that you can do on the spot anywhere so that you can de-stress. Which also included someone who does meditation as well as hypnosis. Those things all help with deep relaxation because ultimately, deep relaxation, I find stress is a huge contribution to people's weight gain. And so helping people learn how to reverse that stress is really, really important. And also sleep. So I had a sleep expert come in. And so all of that stuff is still in the course because people come in and we tape it and so and then include it for anyone else to see. And then for those who want it, because now it's so much easier to get body composition scales, but there is a body composition scale that's Wi-Fi based, and I can see, if you let me, where your weight is going, where your muscle is going, because ultimately that's what I care most about, where your muscle, because you don't want this to be an unhealthy process by losing muscle in the process. And so I watch for that very closely. The weight's going to come off. That's not even a question. You just want to make sure that whatever the process is, it's a healthy process and not an unhealthy one. And then I have one-on-one meetings once a month. And so what that is that it's consultation, it's telehealth meetings, and it doesn't matter where you are. Which makes it nice because I can meet with you from anywhere. So I'm just going to put this up here. Essentially, the gold is what I just described. The platinum is my executive, and that one I limit to 5 people, and there's only 2 slots left for that, and that's by application only. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But one of the things I just wanted to read something that one of my earlier patient clients had written. And she said, I felt bad. My knees were hurting. My weight was out of control. And I was on the verge of type 2 diabetes. I kept asking my doctors. Their answer was eat better. And I thought I was. So I basically kind of gave up. Then I called Dr. Toomer, me, and I originally went to Dr. Toomer for help to lose weight. While she did help me do that, she was also the only one who listened, helped figure out what was going on, why I gained weight to begin with. I cannot thank her enough for what she's done for me. And these are the type of things that keep me going, that keep me driven, because this is what happened to me. I am a doctor, and I went to doctors, and I was shamed, and I was made to feel guilty, and I was made to feel like it was all my fault and there was nothing I could do or nobody could help me. And so when I read things like this, it's really encouraging because it means that I am doing what I set out to do, and that's to help people. But this was this is actually someone who was a friend of mine that I worked with. It wasn't actually a client. This is just someone who consumed my free information that I have in YouTube and that I post on Facebook. And he wrote that I have to kind of brag since moving to Tennessee and eating 3 regular meals with healthy snacks here and there, I lost 30 pounds in 3 months, 238 to 208, almost at my first goal of 195. All that weight has gone while eating more than I used to. I honestly thought I gained weight and was not looking forward to stepping on a scale when I went to the doctors. I'm moving just a bit more with physical therapy, but nothing major, still semi-confined to a bed and wheelchair. I just follow as many suggestions and ideas on here as I can. Thanks to Catherine. See, I can listen. And that's an inside joke. I just always tell him he was hard-headed and he never listened. But that's just show this is someone who is primarily bedbound and was still able to lose weight just by adjusting his eating in ways without starving. That's really important because then it becomes an unhealthy process once if you cut back too much. And so this is just the cost of the various programs. My gold program for right now is $425 monthly or $45.87 if you pay for the whole year once, 12 months at once with the discount. And then my executive concierge is really what it says. It is executive concierge. I am available all the time for any questions, for anything that happens. And it's $2,200 a month. And again, there's only 2 spots left. So for anyone that's interested, but it is by application only. So we do have to have a consultation first because I want to make sure I can help. I'm not going to just say I'm going to do this without helping. Oops. Oh, there we go. So the um the offer for this year, because every year, I mean, prices are going up. I have to pay people more to do the same work that they did before, which is understandable, and that's fine. I have no problem doing that. You know, people need to live, people need to eat, and we all know about inflation and what's happening. But what that also means is that my costs have gone up. And so in 2024, I will be increasing my prices. So this is good through Cyber Monday. And so after that, I'll have to go up a little bit. So step 9 is dessert, like I promised. So um, have dessert. And yes, you heard that right. You can eat dessert. And it's a celebration. People have made food out of love. It's really important to share in that love. Just be mindful and eat in moderation. The other trick is when you're having something, the fattier the better. So like cheesecakes are really great because it's a lot of protein, a lot of fat. When you start taking the fat out of things like fat free, then usually what happens when you have fat free foods, they replaced the fat with sugar just for taste. Better to eat the fatty version, the sugar free fatty version rather than the fat free sugary version. And so the way to do that often is by just adding it. So adding whipped cream, adding full fat ice cream, adding you can get some, you know, carbohydrate or keto friendly, I think it's called ice cream, like Halo Top, which does have a lot of protein, a lot of fat, and no sugar, very little sugar, but tastes really, really good. And so those are some options as well. And then step 10, of course, I can't count. I said 9. All right, so I did 10. But I threw this in there because leftovers. It's not it's not often the food itself or the day itself. It's all the stuff that's left over afterwards. And there's a plan. If you plan for this, it's actually just as enjoyable and you can have your goodies all over again. But the key is to keep it simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. And again, you just follow the same protocols and the same for every meal and event. So small plate with no carbohydrates on it, no starches, just protein and vegetables, or all vegetables as a protein. And then the second plate is where you add the goodies when it's only half your plate, again, in moderation. Add small dessert only after a no carb meal. Now, of course, on the day of Thanksgiving or on Christmas or on your anniversary, you know, you've got to have, you know, you just enjoy the day. You're not going to be so strict. But afterwards, just to sort of quote unquote get back on track, this is the way to do it. If you're going to have dessert, then try to cut out as much of the carbohydrates as you can from the meal before it. And try to limit desserts to once a day, if at all. And the reason is that's really where all the sugar is and what we eat mostly. And so, you know, indulge on the day, but then try to not do the same every day afterwards, because those are usually what catches us. It's not the day of, it's all the stuff done after. And then try to eat a no carb meal each day, like a salad with you know lots of protein on it and in it. And then that way it also gives you a little wiggle room with eating for the rest of the day as well. And one of the things, actually, I'm going to go back. Um, I don't see it, but one of the things is what I call giving your dessert the finger, and I think it's on the dessert page. Let me see if I'm going to go back. There it is. Okay, it's the hack by give your desserts the finger, and that doesn't mean giving it the finger to get rid of it or make it go away. But what that means is when you're getting desserts, and there's lots of different types, and you want to taste all the different types, use your finger as your guide to measure. So you get a sliver, and a sliver is about the width of your finger. But if you get a sliver of 5 different types of desserts, it comes out to be about 1. But if you get a full dessert of every single type, that's where the problem lies. And so I should have mentioned that before, but that is actually a good trick, not just for, again, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, but for any time you celebrate. So you want to partake. When people are celebrating their birthday, they really hurts their feelings sometimes if you don't have a piece of cake. Now, if you're allergic to something, obviously you're not going to eat it. Or if it's something that's going to give you a problem, like if you're lactose intolerant and it's cheesecake, you're not going to eat it. But otherwise, this gives you a little wiggle room when socializing and not feeling guilty and being able to, like I said, to maintain your progress. So I talked about the leftovers, keeping it simple. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the medications. So I usually do not prescribe Adipex or phentermine, mainly because it is cardiotoxic, although it is very effective in suppressing appetites. It is very effective in people who may have certain types of binge eating disorders, so that when they're triggered, it's very difficult for them to reel themselves back in. That's the only time that I use it, and it's only on an as needed basis. It's not every single day. So if people know going into the holidays that they struggle every single year, I may give them a low dose to use only on the days that they're struggling. And that way it can help with staying on track and not going down a rabbit hole or just spinning completely out of control. The other are the GLP-1 receptor agonists, like Wegovy, Ozempic, Manjaro, the new ones that bound, it's not even out yet, Victoza or Saxenda. There's some other ones that are a little bit older. They've been around for about 20 years, in spite of what media makes you think, because they have been used very successfully. Saxenda for weight loss has been out for quite some time, over 10 years. And so if you are on a GLP-1 receptor agonist, there are a couple of side effects people complain about often. One, it can suppress your appetite to the point where you just don't want to eat. The other is that it can cause food to taste strange. I'm of the mind that food is for celebrating. Food is something you should enjoy. It's part of your self-care. And so when you get to the point where you can't eat because you're not hungry and you can't eat because food tastes terrible, then it's time to reconsider the dose or reconsider the frequency or reconsider taking it at all. And the reason is you need to eat to maintain your metabolism and to maintain your nutrients. The last thing you want to do is to take a medication that causes malnutrition or disordered eating. And so this may be a time where you might take a break or spread out your doses. Instead of taking it once a week, take it once every 2 weeks so that you can enjoy the time, enjoy being with family, enjoy the food that people make for you out of love just for this time. And then you go back in January once the holidays are over. But that it takes some willpower to do that. It can be difficult because particularly if you're in a weight loss journey and you start seeing the scale changing, that can be difficult to do. But again, when you're being treated by a physician, as you should be, when you're being followed by a physician who's monitoring what's happening, you can negotiate, make those sort of decisions together. So that's my talk. So I am Dr. Catherine Toomer. These are ways you can find me. You can subscribe and follow and get more information about what I do. But my website is drtoomer.com, and I'm on Facebook as Dr. Toomer. And well, although my name on Facebook is Dr. Catherine H. Toomer, my link, I guess, is Dr. Toomer. YouTube, also Dr. Toomer. And then on TikTok, I'm Dr. Toomer Talks because there was already a Dr. Toomer. So I threw that in there. And I have my Dr. Toomer Talks on Tuesdays. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. You can unmute yourself, whichever you prefer. And also for anyone who's maybe interested in working with me, I did put a link to in the chat for you could use to go to the site and either make an appointment to speak with me and we can talk some more, or you can just join my program. You're welcome either way. I'm going to stop my share. And actually, I'm just going to leave it up. Um, so hello, Natalie. Thank you. Good morning. Or I guess it's afternoon here. You're I think an hour behind me. So did you have any questions about anything? Oops. I'm trying to and